Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic St. Paddy Priya, and she is going to be a character coming to RTS this week. Visually she is very different than the previous Priyas we've seen. The thing that stands out the most obviously is the hat and the gun. The gun is very vibrant, very colourful. I'm loving it. There's a bit of a rainbow in there, as you can see. And then obviously the hat is just a nod to the fact that it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, and that's why it's St. Paddy's Prayer. We're going to just listen to the sound of the minigun. It is a proper minigun sound. And I think we have had a minigun on a weapon, in the past. Maybe in the 5-star era, I think we had a Victor who had a minigun. Not too many characters since, but this is actually pretty cool. Visually on the left hand side you can see it's in full effect, that full animation on the art. I do love the art, and Priya looks like she's loving it too. Shooting that minigun just non-stop indeed. If we look at her stats, as a level 720 limit break 3 character, she has 12,856 attack, 20,570 defense, and 17,999 HP. She is a tough character. She is considered a tank as a role. She, of course, is a Gold Mythic character, and she's going to be yet another character to join the Holiday Heroes. And I think we're pushing double digits now with the Holiday Heroes, which it's no problem. But I just thought that was that's pretty funny. Now, the first thing of Priya we're going to look at is the Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Over the Rainbow. It has got a recharge rate of 66 AP, so it's a tank. This isn't super fast. Deal damage equal to 20% of this character's defense to a single enemy. Revive up to 2 tough teammates with 100% of their max HP. So obviously 2 parts of this. The 20% damage is not too crazy. It isn't maim, it's just going to be flat damage. And it's going to be interesting. See how that works basically. I think it's going to work just sort of like Gentleman's Rush and Gentleman's Signature. It can't crit, that sort of thing. So there's no possibility of Priya getting control. That's the bonus, generally speaking, of main attacks, is there's no possibility of control, and the same situation should happen here. The revive is kind of crazy. 100% max HP on the characters that are picked up, and we're seeing like 50k plus HP on these characters pushing in. Now it is only tough characters, so you can sort of see it as being like limited, but on the characters it can potentially pick up, it's going to be crazy. Obviously, you could just have her in a heavy, tough defense team, and I will say that Priya's probably going to be in heavy, tough defense teams, and you're more likely, if not guaranteed, to pick up any revivable tough teammates when you get this rush off. Okay, so we have got the Adrenaline Rush up of Priya. Primarily, this is going to be a defense team, rush, but I just want to show you how it works, basically. And it should be 20% of her defense, so whatever her defense is, apparently that's 20% of it, and it should be flat. It should be a flat number, and just to see if it's a flat number and it doesn't have any variance, we're going to do it again right now. Okay, so we'll rush Garrett again, and I'm pretty sure it was 8,887 last time, and it is 8,887. So it is a flat damage. It is going to not have any variance, but it is actually going to be damage over maim. You could potentially say this has been beneficial because it can't be resisted. That's actually a good thing. But defense should work against this because you're dealing damage. So the higher someone's defense is on an attack team, you could potentially reduce the incoming damage. Whereas maim bypasses defense, and it's just going to reduce max HP. You guys know how maim works. So it's pretty basic on the rush. If I had any tough teammates that needed to be revived, they would have been revived, 2 of them max. But if there was a fast teammate on the floor, well, they would have just still be dead. Now we'll look at the upgrades on the Adrenaline Rush, and you can see at grade 3 it gets an actual upgrade itself, where it does revive a tough teammate. So initially it doesn't revive anybody, but grade 3, as long as you get one of Paddy Priya's, you're going to get grade 3 without too much of a problem. Then at grade 5 it gets a 10% damage boost, and this is obviously going to be 10% of her defense. So initially it's 10% of her defense, and then now it's going to be 20% of her defense. And at LB3, a big jump, it goes from reviving 1 tough teammate up to reviving 2 tough teammates. This is obviously quite a big boost, but even if it's just 1 tough teammate, depending on the kind of team you put her in, it's still going to be pretty reasonable. This isn't the most spectacular part of her kit, I will tell you that for sure, but it is going to be nice once it goes off. There's guarantees that it will obviously do some damage, and any revivable tough teammates that are actually been taken down already have a chance to be picked up. Of course, that 100% max HP is the nuts part when they do get revived. Now that can be reduced. For instance, if you take someone out and they've got like crosshairs resist, and you've taken them out and they've got debuffs on them like 80% heal reduction from someone like Mike, they will get revived and they'll have 20% HP on them because they will have the heal of the actual revive reduced. But even 20% max HP is still decent. That's what majority of rushes are, like 20 to 30%. So unless someone's got full heal reduction block, 100%, which means they can't be revived, they're still going to have tons of HP once they do. Now next up is Priya's signature move, and you might have seen it already in terms of the name and the visuals. I like the picture, of course. It's called Lucky Charms. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 0 turns, and this is where that 66 AP isn't as much of a problem because you obviously get 35 AP every time you pop this off. Number of uses is unlimited, of course. This character and one other teammate recovers from all penalties. This character gets 30% defense for 1 turn. This is going to be really nice. Obviously, that means that she's going to take much less damage, but I don't believe that that buff is going to last long enough for it to buff her for her next turn, obviously, when she would rush, for instance. So she's not going to have that 30% defense buff from herself. She could potentially get it from someone else, but it's not going to boost her rush damage output because of that, unless she was commanded for whatever reason. But yeah, she'll be able to get 70 AP pretty easily from this. 2 signature moves in a row, 70 AP. Her rush is 66. It's going to be absolutely fine. Now, full cleanse is extremely powerful. This means it's going to remove very, very vital things. Main damage, for instance, if you're just trying to whittle teams down and then it suddenly gets the main wiped out, it's rough. You know what it's like if a alert weapon procs to cleanse that character of their main. It's really annoying. Same with if things like infection. So any of the sort of slow things that take a bit of time to get going, this is going to really deal with. It's not going to really help against pure damage, but that's where the defense buff is going to come into play when it comes to actual Priya herself. Okay, so we're attacking with Dario lead, and this is just so we can get tons of control off against one of the characters. We're aiming for the character that isn't Priya here, and we have managed to get the 3 controls. I think it's Stun, Daze, and Impair. Now I'll defend with everybody, and what you'll see is Priya will cleanse all of the control on Wangfa, and Wangfa should just have his turn. I think he should just have his turn as usual. He'll impair somebody, and he's going to impair my Dario, as you can see, and that's what's it's going to be like. She's going to just cleanse herself and someone else. She also gives herself the 30% defense buff, so if she hasn't got anything to cleanse on herself, she still gets, you know, the defense boost, which is actually pretty decent. So when I obviously do damage to her, it'll be a reduced damage. Now, it doesn't last onto her own turn, so let's pretend she actually got her rush in this situation. It wouldn't boost her rush output. She's going to do her signature move again, which is going to give her the 30% defense. If she was going to rush, she would have lost the 30% defense. I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to defend when the 30% defense is up, and you'll just see it disappear. There we go. It disappeared and then reappeared instantly. This is because it only reappeared because she did her signature move once again. So looking at the upgrades of the signature move, you can see at grade 2 it gets -1 to starting cooldown. So it goes from a 3-turn initial cooldown to a 2-turn initial cooldown. At grade 4 it gets -1 to cooldown. So it goes from a 2-turn cooldown down to a 1-turn cooldown. At limit break 1 it gets -1 to starting cooldown. So it goes to a turn 1 initial cooldown. So that obviously you can do it off the first turn on a defense team. That's going to be very useful. And at limit break 2, it gets -1 to cooldown. So lots of cooldowns on the limit breaks. These would have been really cool to see on characters when it comes to the limit break updates before. Some characters really need it, and it's going to make a big difference. You're going to go from, what's that, initial cooldown of 3 to cooldown of 2 to initial cooldown of 1 to cooldown of 0. So she's just going to be spamming it every turn. Really, really good. No AP required on attack, on defense. I mean, well, you could potentially do on defense, but I probably wouldn't. And she's going to be getting enough AP to do that rush, even though it is a tad slow. But yeah, the cleanse is going to be very, very frustrating to deal with. There's a lot of characters out there that are very tanky, and she's a tank, and I can tell you she's going to be very tanky too. And the way through these teams is generally with those main teams or with Infection, pure damage does struggle a little bit against overly defensive teams and characters, should I say. And you know, you can control this, you can daze this character, so I could see a lot of people putting daze resist on their Priya just so this definitely goes off. But in the future, of course, there would be some issues when it comes to trauma, but there's no doubt it's going to be characters that come out that protect against trauma to a certain extent as well. So it's going to be interesting to see the sort of teams that are going to be built around Priya, because they are going to be built around her. She has got a leader skill, which we'll be getting to in a moment. But first, we'll check out her passives. And checking out those passives, the mythic abilities of Priya, you can see she has got strength because she is a tank. That's the 40% critical hit resistance. That means if someone's even got 100% critical chance, they actually now have 60% critical chance. So very nice indeed. Fortitude, we have seen this on, I think, Sawyer quite recently, with a character now 60% defense boost, another one coming into the game. And this is where the tankiness is going to come in. Very, very tanky on the passives. The next one is called Steadfast. Incoming fast trait damage against this character has its multiplier reduced by 40%. So percentage damage is now being dealt with, where her signature move was dealing with things like Infection, Maim. Her passives in terms of self-preservation are very good, seemingly. Defense boost and obviously Steadfast are going to limit the amount of incoming damage she's going to take. Next up is called Molten Gold. When this character uses their Adrenaline Rush while battling on the defense team, 100% chance a single enemy gets 20,000 burn damage for one turn. Now, she can't spam her rush constantly. It's going to be every, like, 3 turns, 2 to 3 turns. And there are some accessible characters out there that can deal with this, but if you don't use those characters, that 20,000 burn is going to pretty much burn through a lot of characters out there. Now, there are some characters out there that do reductions, but characters that bring in resists for the opening like couple of turns, this is going to bypass that. So the only character that can be able to deal with this is reductions, but 20,000 is actually quite a lot. So if character has like 80% reduction, this is still going to do 4k damage. You know, it's still going to do quite a reasonable amount of damage against a damage dealer who only has like 25,000 max HP, and it bypasses, you know, bonus HP. It can be problematic. It definitely can be problematic. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attack Priya with my fast character, that is Glenn. Normally I would do trait damage. You can see the trait damage coming in, but it should say that it's going to be reduced. Like a red text should go over Glenn's name potentially. And it didn't, but it's basically going to be a defense versus fast. But it also will stack with defense versus fast as well. So yeah, lots of potential, you know, damage down, and she could obviously have the minus to crit incoming crit damage as well on her kit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to defend on all these characters. She's going to rush here, and that means she's going to do the 20% of her defense to somebody, and then one random other teammates, as you can see, it isn't necessarily the character she attacks, gets 20,000 burn. Now on this particular team, I do not have anyone who does any reduction. So it is going to do 20,000 burn. It is only for one turn, so if it did take out Rick, just one hit him, it wouldn't go on to another character. Like, burn can start moving around, but there potentially could be defense team characters that come out that like do extension. So if a character comes out that extends the burn by one turn, or any like burn and bleed effects by one turn, which characters do exist right now, but not necessarily worthy of being used on defense teams at the moment. But that could be a big problem when it comes to that rush when it goes off. So have your Rositas and your Williams at the ready, because Paddy Priya is going to be burning it down. It's going to be a big problem. If we see the upgrades, you can see at grade 1, she gets the first half of Fortitude, which is 20% defense. At grade 2, she gets the first half of Strength, which is 20% critical hit resistance. At grade 3, she's going to get the second half of Fortitude, which is the 40% defense bonus. If we scroll down, we can see first half is Steadfast at grade 4, and that's a reduction by 20% on the multiplier for incoming fast trait damage. At grade 5, she's going to get the first half of Molten Gold, and that makes it a 50% chance to apply 20,000 burn. And then if we look at the limit break upgrades, you can see that Strength 2 comes in at LB1, which makes it 40% total critical hit resistance. At LB2, it'll be Steadfast 2, making it 40% reduction to incoming fast trait damage on that multiplier. And then lastly, at Limit Break 3, it will be Molten Gold 2, making it that 100% chance to do the burn on the Adrenaline Rush. So it is kind of interesting, the sort of boost to the Adrenaline Rush on her passive. I guess it's because they potentially see burn being too powerful in that state to be used on an attack team for a tanky character. I'm not sure, because it only works when she's on a defense team, as you can see, while battling on a defense team. But otherwise, like, you could potentially have used it on an attack team with someone like Shiva or something like this, where there are extension in place. So that's going to stop that on attack teams for sure. But on defense teams, that still could come out in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But 20,000 burn is still going to be a problem unless you've got those, reduction characters or those cleansers in your team. So far, so good with St. Paddy Priya. And I'm just going to show you her stats now, because I had to basically hide this before, where she had the 60% defense boost. This is her base now defense. It's 32,900 because of that, 60% she's getting within her passives. But this is going to go up a bit more potentially, because she is a leader, and she has got a leader skill. And the leader skill is all tough teammates get 50% defense. Really simple, really straightforward. And you can see now that the Adrenaline Rush is much better than it potentially would have seemed otherwise, because if you do use Priya on a defense team as the leader, you're going to have her surrounded by tough characters, and they're the ones that she's always going to be reviving. And of course, there are other characters that she could have in those teams too, for instance, like Andre, and that's going to be Andre stacking with Priya's leader skill, stacking with Priya's passive, stacking with Priya's weapon. And I can tell you that off the start, without any lieutenants and any mods, Priya has 96,000 defense without any boosts. Just level 720, weapon, leader skill, Andre, passive. It's kind of crazy. And every tough character is going to have the same pretty much, except the passive. But they're going to have the leader skill, their own weapon, Andre's passive. And I'm saying Andre like he's a default character to use in that team, but he kind of is. He kind of is. If you're going to have defense, you might as well stack it as high as possible. And obviously, he's a very accessible character. You see him quite a lot as it is. So yeah, and then now people on their combat mods, when it comes to these characters, are just going to stack up HP to make up the difference. Because you're going to have characters with like 100,000 plus defense and maybe like 40,000 HP. It's going to be kind of weird balance, but extremely limited incoming damage. And then the main resist is going to be very important. Any sorts of healers to stop that infection is going to be very important. Yeah, there's going to be some really, really tanky, tough teams. Really, really tanky. And then you've got Angel, of course, who is kind of a super tank herself. Yeah, I can see a very tanky, tough team coming along. And just to show you her defense, this is just with Andre, passive, leader skill, and weapon. Her weapon has a 35% base, so obviously if you get that up to a 50% defense weapon or a 45% defense weapon, like I know a lot of people have, it's going to get a lot higher. She's also going to get, another 719 levels from her lieutenants. You're looking at 120k HP defense, without a doubt, 120k defense. So her HP number definitely needs to get risen somehow by combat mods, be it by weapon, but her defense is not going to be a problem, that's for sure. Now, talking of Priya's weapon, it is St. Paddy's Priya's Vengeful Minigun. It's looking very pink on the left-hand side, as you can see. On the right-hand side, you can read it has a 35% defense base, like I said. It has a huge bonus to AP when taking damage in the second slot. In the third slot, it actually has a unique special. This is kind of interesting, but it would make her a bit of a window. It's up to you how you would want to go here. Bonus AP plus defense. At the start of each wave, this character receives 20% AP and 20% defense for 2 turns. Now, you may not think this is actually worthwhile because she's got a signature move that she can do turn 1, but this procs before the enemy team will attack. So it depends whether you think it's worth. Because her defense is so high, it's not going to make as big a difference. I don't think anyone's going to be taking her down turn 1 very easily, let's be honest. And in the last slot, she has Improved Tough Hell. I'm not sure what other character actually has this. It's a new version of Tough HP. Up to 2 teammates get 10% bonus HP per turn for each tough teammate on the team. Now, obviously, if she's in a team with 5 tough characters because she's that tough leader, that means every turn 2 teammates are going to get 50% bonus HP just because of Priya. And then if there's that other character, I think it might be Angel who has that weapon, then it's going to be 2 characters get 100% bonus HP per turn. Then if you have Davey in the same team, then obviously Davey's going to proc his self-heal and people are going to get bonus HP regardless. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of bonus HP, and she doesn't necessarily need more damage modifiers in terms of like damage reduction. So she is one of the few characters potentially that could use a weapon that has, you know, a non-reducer, like I was saying before with the reduce incoming crit damage by 50%, just because she's going to be so tanky anyway, and the fact that she has a tank where she can resist the actual crits, bonus HP could be a bigger deal. So this was St. Paddy's Priya, and she is pretty crazy looking, and she's going to be extremely tanky. You've got to think of ways to get through this character. We have got some characters that can obviously deal with this to a certain extent when it comes to, like, you have to daze her out, otherwise any ideas you've got when it comes to bypassing that defense are going to be in for a big surprise. In for a big surprise. The cleanser's going to come in for sure. It's interesting. I like the visuals, of course. Do tell me your thoughts on St. Paddy's Priya in the comments down below. That is going to be the end of my video though, guys. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.